Hello, everybody. Welcome to the One Fun Guy podcast. Tonight, I have a very, very special guest. It's my cousin Mickey, Michael Malchiodi. Mickey, I'm going to let you introduce yourself, and we'll hop into your plethora of things that you've done. But take the stage, Mickey. Tell us a little about you.
Okay, just call me Mickey, of course, and you go ahead, hit me with the questions. I kind of would like to start with the reasons why I joined the Navy, because that was probably one of the things you wanted to hear.
Sure. So actually, let's just start with that. So you rewind yourself to high school. You're kind of figuring out what you're going to do with your life. Military is what you picked. How did that happen?
Okay, I'm going to make that faster. I'm in college. I'm a sophomore in college, and my younger brother, Tommy, is a senior in high school, in love with a girl named Sue. Okay, Tommy gets a letter from the draft bureau in 1963 telling him that there's a pretty good chance that he's going to be drafted the next time the board meets. Okay, but there was a law back there then that said they'd only take one from a family. So I, who was a sophomore in college with a school deferment, if I joined the service, my brother's name would drop off the list. So if you knew my brother, like I hope a lot of the families is listening now, you do the same thing I would. I dropped out of school, joined the Navy. My brother's name was taken off the draft list, and it was coming up. And there I was. I had never flown an airplane or shot a bullet in my life, and I was on my way to flight school.
Okay.
I did it so that my brother wouldn't be drafted.
Awesome. So you joined the Navy, right? So now you're an enlisted member of the military. Does the Navy offer you any route you want to take, or how did flying come about?
Well, I actually had a contract that if I couldn't pass the physical or mental tests, that I could just drop into a program and just serve 2 years and get out. But if I wanted to stay in and continue with the flight program, I would owe them 6 years.
Okay.
And to make a long story short, it was a divine intervention. I fell in love with learning how to fly. I had some good teachers, met the most interesting people I've ever met in my life. I'll tell you about one of them. He ended up to be my roommate. He was a kid from Kosciuszko, Mississippi. And of course, I'm from Chicago, Illinois. And when we met and we were assigned rooms together, we kind of looked at each other, and it says, well, this probably ain't going to work, but let's give it a shot. We ended up to be the best friends. We went through flight training together, got sent to the same operational squadron together. We're roommates on the same aircraft carrier, the Ranger, and we went on to serve about 3 more years, and then on to another aircraft carrier, the Constellation, where he was shot down and was a POW for 7 years. But I just wanted to establish that link about meeting people, getting close, and really to know. And I could be, the Bible's chapter number 1 guy who got the most divine intervention in his life, because things really worked out for me.
Okay. So you're in flight school. Take us through that. Like, what kind of training goes involved with being a pilot, right? There's certain things that happen. Start us from like when you first walked through the door the first day.
Okay. If you saw the movie An Officer and a Gentleman, that was pre-flight. That was a point to up there where he carried the girl off, and then he went into flight school. So that pre-flight is a 16-week program where I got to meet Bill. And that's where you learn all your ground training. They put you through a pretty tough physical program. And from there, your grades are recorded from A to Z. And at the end of that 16 weeks, you're ranked in a class, and you could choose the airplane that you want to fly based on your ranking, your class ranking.
Okay. So where did you go to flight school? Like, where did they send you?
I started like everybody else did in Pensacola, Florida for 16 weeks. Then from there on, you went into a specialty program. I went, I'm going to skip a lot of it. I got out to Naval Air Station Miramar in San Diego. That's where I first became a flight crew member of an F-4 Phantom aircraft and started learning to fly the operational airplane and was through with the training stuff. Okay, so out in Pensacola, Florida, out to San Diego, California. From there, for about 6 months of training, and then sent directly to an operational squadron where we were assigned to a carrier and we're off to Vietnam.
Okay, so what years are these? Is this obviously?
Okay, 1963 is when I joined the Navy. 1964 is when I was assigned to my first F-4 Phantom training squadron in San Diego. In 1965, when I was assigned to VF 143, or as we basically called ourselves, the Pukin Dogs. That was my first operational squadron. 63, we were sent at Christmas. 63, we were sent down to the Ranger, and we were on our way to Vietnam.
Okay, so you're basically a young adult, and now that they're telling you you're going to go fly a plane into a war, what goes through your head at this time? Are you like, walk us through some of the like stuff that you would normally think that a warrior mindset would have?
Well, way back in pre-flight, frankly, if I didn't get fighters, I was going to get out. I'd serve my 2 years and get out. But like I said, divine intervention was just all over me. I stepped into it. I did pretty good with my grades and everything. I got out to California, and I was able to pick the airplane that I wanted to fly, fighters, and I wanted to be stationed on the West Coast, and I was. And my timing was, some people would say terrible. I say it was perfect because the war was on, and you can get away with a lot of things during wartime when you're in the service, as opposed to the peacetime. And in wartime, you pretty much got what you wanted if you earned it.
Mm-hmm.
In peacetime, you get what they want, where they want to send you.
Okay. So what is combat like in Vietnam as a pilot? What were some stuff you were doing?
Okay, to start back in the airplane, there's two people in it, a pilot and what we call radar intercept officer. Okay, I initially was started in the flight program to fly the front seat, the pilot. I had a depth perception problem that was discovered, and they were going to let me out of the Navy fresh free unless I wanted to switch over to the backseat training program. Now, if you saw Top Gun, you saw Tom Cruise sitting in the front, and you saw the goose in the back, the guy that got killed. Okay, that's how I started. I was the goose, the guy in the backseat. Okay, and from there, I was crewed with somebody, and the Navy said, as soon as you get back and then have proven you've done this, that, and that, and the other thing, you can move back to the front seat.
Okay. So now
off I am. I got all my training. I was paired with somebody. To me, it was pure luck. It was the highest ranking pilot in the squadron was the full commander, and I was an ensign. So I had to learn quick, because he being so senior, and I got assigned to the most serious missions. We had to plan a lot of the missions, and I just learned fast, but I learned from an expert, and that got my career supersonic right away.
Okay. Now, are you flying day missions, night missions, or whatever they want?
Oh, day and night. Day and night. We had a 3-week warm up, just flying in South Vietnam. Then the Ranger moved up to the waters where the carriers that were hitting all the northern targets. And from then on, for another 10 months, we flew off the carrier up in the North Tonkin Gulf and all against the north.
Okay. Now, The war starts winding down. You get told it's coming to an end. What happens next?
We didn't know the war. Well, it didn't happen that way.
Okay,
We were
how did it
hoping
happen?
it would, but it didn't. The war went on. So we fought for 9 months. Then we're sent home for 3 months for R&R, and then we were sent back on another carrier, the Constellation, right back to North Vietnam, flying the same kinds of missions until finally, we heard that the North Vietnamese were sitting down at the peace table. We stayed out of the politics. We did what we were supposed to be doing, planning and fighting. And we were on the Constellation when I got my next set of orders, which was back to San Diego, into the training F4 squadron, where I was an instructor, which was like heaven to me because I was still in the cockpit. I was still flying instead of sending back to a desk job or someplace in DC. I was in San Diego, and I had a big decision to make because my 3 years went by like, so quick.
Mhm.
And I had to make a choice either to get out because I didn't finish school. I pulled out of school with 2 years of college, but the Navy promised me if I stayed in, they would send me to Monterey to the Naval Postgraduate School there, and I could stay there, finish my education, finish my undergraduate work. I didn't know what else they had planned, which was kind of sneaky, and I'll tell you that in a minute. Or get out of the Navy, and my obligation would have been done. My brother's obligation would have been done, and I chose to go to Monterey to stay in the Navy because I just loved the people.
Okay.
It was quite a journey from meeting and my best friend being a farm boy, and I'm talking about a dirt farmer boy from Kosciuszko, Mississippi, and getting along for 6 years practically. Well, I'll tell you, as a family member, he was like my older brother.
Okay.
He was the same age, but he was like my brother.
Sure. So you go to Monterey. What happens
Yep.
next now?
They send me into a program for 2 years, and I was supposed to go right back to a training squadron and keep flying. And they pulled a fast one on me. They said, we're going to just keep you there an extra year because you have more combat time than 95% of anybody in the F4 community. Because remember, I told you, when I was first assigned to fly combat missions, it was with the commanding officer. So we got to fly the big ones, not the escorts. We got to plan and to hit the big hard targets. So they felt with all that on my record, and again, divine intervention. I worked for good people. They said nice things about me, my fitness reports. I got to go back to that training squadron for 2 years, and they guaranteed me another fighting squadron after that. To make a long story short, I avoided a desk job like
Right.
Tom Cruise did in Top Gun 2. Okay. And we were all like that. Speaking of Top Gun, Top Gun was a perfect picture of everybody who started flight training like I did back in '63. And the first 2 years, the first 2 squadrons, everybody was like that. You did nothing but want to fight. Okay. The second Top Gun was more like, okay, you did all of this stuff. You did your Tom Cruise time as a crazy fighter jock, but now you've got to take jobs like ship's company, or maybe be sent to the Pentagon, which to me would have been really a heartbreaker.
Sure.
But somebody stepped in for me. That's a long story too. Just trust me. It was my guardian angel, and I got another fighter squadron after that. So my life for the first 11 years in the Navy was all fighter squadrons. And there
was all out west, right?
Pardon?
All in San Diego?
All in San Diego. Yeah, all in up till this time. I got my flight time on the East Coast. That's another story. I don't want to go carry to someplace you don't want to know.
Sure.
So I'll just use the code word. Okay, let's move on. Okay.
No, that's fine. Because pretty much like I'm like everybody else, right? I've seen the movies, right? Top Gun, Officer and a Gentleman, the Iron Eagle, right? You see all these movies. Iron Eagle was obviously Air Force, but you see all these pilots like, and they're larger than life, and you lived it. So I want you to tell your story the way you want to tell it, right? Because obviously, like I said before, your pictures are on my wall, all the stuff you've done. You are like this icon of a human being, and like I just want people are going to want to know how real was Top Gun, how accurate it was. Do you do the same stuff? Do you train like they did? Do you like people are pretty much going to want to know that. So I want you to walk us through it, having gone through that, to tell us what your time was like. And then that's what I want to get out of this.
Okay. I'll get a little bit more back to basic training. Number one, and Top Gun's a pretty good book to kind of use as a template. Okay, like I said, we were all Tom Cruise, Maverick, Top Gunners, because we not only were guaranteed to get a good assignment if we did what we were supposed to do, and can manage good grades. And the Navy followed through with all of us. We all got sent to good squadrons. And those 3 or 4 years, you got a fitness report each year, grading your performance as an officer, as a gentleman, as a fighter pilot, as a collateral duty, because we all had collateral duties in the squadrons. Like, well, I won't get into that because that you want to hear about the combat part, which is the important part. We all did that, and it changed my life because I got to focus on one thing. And I'm going to talk about my family too in a bit.
Sure.
Because I had a choice. I came to a crossroad where I could get out after the first 4 years, go to school, or come back to Chicago and kind of pick up where I left off. And that was a pretty different road to take. And like I said, with divine guidance, I chose the one that was the right one. I chose to stay in. And I'll say this about anybody who had ever wanted to be but didn't do it because they felt they weren't the ones, or it was too hard. And here's the answer to all of that. Anybody who can drive a car, anybody who could drive a car can fly an airplane, provided one thing, that you were able to wipe everything off your mind when you got in that cockpit and were taxied up to the catapult and you got shot off the end. You had to be ahead of that airplane. And that means there's no marital problems. You're not sick. You're not mad at anybody. And all you're doing in your mind is trying to stay ahead of that airplane by, number one, taking off, getting the right airspeed, don't eject, your airplane's still flying, climb up to an altitude, refuel in flight, go to the target, hit the target, don't get killed, get back to the aircraft carrier, make a carrier landing, get out of the airplane, don't fall off the airplane while you're climbing down, walk to the stateroom, find your roommate, and lie to each other about how exciting the mission was.
Okay. So it seems pretty simple. Obviously, you had years and years of training, right? You were a top pilot. You had successful missions. You have kind of done what most people would dream to do. And so from, an average person talking to you, I know you downplay what, is happening, but a lot of the stuff you did through your military career has been nothing short of stellar, right? You've done everything they've asked you to do pretty much to perfection.
Well, you had to. There was no. I mean, everybody did. Everybody who can brag they flew in the front or back seat of the F-4 can raise their heads and then say, well, I'm one of the best because there was no harder airplane to fly. There was no better airplane to fly. The government gave us a jewel of a tool there with that F-4 Phantom. And that's why in pre-flight, we were all competing with each other, so to speak. The guys that didn't get what they wanted, well, a lot of them had to fly prop airplanes instead of their mission being air superiority, make sure you can shoot everybody down before they shoot you down, or protect the bombers that are on their way to the mission. That was ingrained in everything that was built into the flight program. They let you know that if you weren't the best, you weren't going to make it. And they helped. And some of the guys didn't make it. And they were pretty disappointed. And they usually, opted to get out of the Navy or just to fly one tour. A lot of them opted to fly a prop plane with 4 engines on it. And in 2 years, they got out of the Navy and got a great job with the airlines, which is a whole other, story.
Sure.
That to me wasn't flying. That was something else. But anyway.
Right. All right. So now you're in training. The war is over. You've gotten this. Now what happens from that point on now? So you decide to sign up.
Okay, let's start with the good news. When the Vietnamese let my roommate, who was a POW for 6 years out of prison, and we'll call that about 1963. 73, 74. In that time period. At that point, I was just finishing postgraduate school, and they had sent me to another fighter squadron. Okay, where do you want me to go from there now?
So take us through your journey at that point. So it's 74.
In 74. Now I'm almost a 9-year veteran.
Right.
And they send me to another squadron for 2 years, which was, now it's peacetime. Okay, peacetime Navy was a lot different than the wartime Navy. Instead of taking a cruise and going to Vietnam, we trained in the San Diego area, and we made peaceful cruises to the Orient, to the Philippine area and the Japan area. It's called Westpac, West Pacific. Instead of going and fight a war in the Tonkin Gulf, we were on carriers now. All we were doing was training for the missions that the politicians thought would be in the future.
Okay.
That help?
So as you're training now and it's peacetime, do you still fly as if you were in combat? Do you still do the training like as if you were at war, or are you doing different things?
You always train for combat. There is no such thing as being in an operational squadron and not training for combat. Okay. So the combat we were training for had a little lick of the Soviet Union, well, a big lick of the Soviet Union, a medium link at the Chinese, and what could possibly happen for other countries, and how to support NATO and how to get along with our friends like in Italy and Great Britain, who were all part of alliances. Okay. So you always try. I mean, there was no such thing as flying an airplane that wasn't loaded. Okay. With ordnance. Sure. And you went out and you bombed, targets that were just targets in the middle of the desert or middle of the ocean. But you kept that edge always. Okay. So in other words, when everybody who was in an operational squadron, not in an area like Vietnam was training to go into the next threat areas, which were classified. Sure. So at this point now, you're training your non-war. At what point do you decide I'm going to make the military my career and I'm going to finish out?
or I'm going to walk away? What was your decision at that point?
Well, we're going to back up a few years while I was in postgraduate school.
Okay.
I married a wonderful woman and we had 2 children. That didn't dull my edge for combat, but it did make me look ahead. And I had some good people telling me, if you stay in, you're going to be successful. And I had no ideas at all or want to fly civilian airplanes. That to me was a responsibility that I could never handle, I don't think. I mean, I never tried it, but, I like the excitement coming back and making carrier landing made your day, whether it was a day of peace or a day of war. Flying a 747 with 300 passengers was just something I didn't want to face every day of my life. You know what I mean? I came to another crossroad. I decided to stay in the Navy, take a Navy career, then to get out and looking for a job, although they were very easy to find and get at that time.
Okay. So you decide to stay in. What happens at that point?
Then I finished when I was in the squadron, and they start sending me to schools, to specialty schools in Washington. We had what they call junior war college, which was a 6-month school that prepped you for other colleges and things. And the next thing I knew, I was faced with a decision that the Bureau would have to make, which was to make me a commanding officer of a squadron or sending me off to the Pentagon. And that's called a career board. And again, I lucked out. I got chosen to command the squadron, so I went back to a squadron, but this time not as just a member. I was the commanding officer. I was the senior person in that squadron.
Okay. So
and
now
that was my first trip to the East Coast. They sent me to Naval Air Station Norfolk in Virginia Beach, Virginia. So I got to kind of see a different part of the Navy. It was peacetime. And instead of making combat cruises on carriers, we were making our cruises to the Mediterranean. Still practicing, real combat missions, but not fighting a war. This time, these were training cruises in the Mediterranean, where I got to, see the world.
Sure.
The real neat part of the world there. After I had seen the Orient, the good part of that one. So I was, you got to say, the luckiest guy in the world.
Okay. What's the difference between being a regular officer and now you're a commanding officer? Your role as a leader becomes more relevant. How did that transition go for you?
As a commanding officer, I had under me 4 what were called lieutenant. Well, I had 1 officer that was junior to me in rank. I was a commander. My executive officer was a commander, but I had more time in as a commander. So he was junior to me. Okay. 1 guy under me. Then I had a level where there were 4 people under the executive officer. Then I had the crews. I had 14 crews, that's 28 people, of which were very junior officers like Tom Cruise was in Top Gun 1, all the way up to what you saw in Top Gun 2. People who were, in those various ranks. So I was totally responsible for 300 people, 30 of which were commissioned officers, and the rest were mid rank to very junior rank. I say another 30 of them, and then more than 200 enlisted men who were our mechanics, electronic experts, parachute, ejection seat experts. I can go on and on. These were the men that made up a fighter squadron that got orders to an aircraft carrier as part of an air wing.
Okay. So, in your military career, how many planes did you fly? You started with the F4? Did you transition to another plane?
I flew three versions of the F4. The F4A, because when I was in the training command, they had one left, and they were two stick airplanes. So I got a chance to actually fly the airplane very early. Then I transitioned to the F4B and the F4J, which were the combat ready latest thing that McDonnell Douglas could build and fly. Those were the only operational airplanes that I flew. Back in the training command, there were two pipelines. A short pipeline that got you where I took, that went right into a squadron, as opposed to one that took a year that lets you try to fly everything from 4 basic props up to multi-engine props, helicopters, and then finally make your decision based on your class standing at that time and what was ready, what the needs of the service were, where you can go.
Okay.
You see, I was guaranteed because of the route that I took right in San Diego there in '65 that I would go right to my first fighter squadron, and I
Okay.
did.
Sure. Now, from your transitions to the different places and people you've met, without getting too in depth, where do your military orders come from? Do they come from the president? Do they come from senators? Do they come from congressmen? Who makes the decisions on what the Navy does, or
Who makes the decision, what the Navy does or what I do?
what the Navy does? And then my next question was going to be, then who makes the decision on what you do?
Okay, the Navy starts with the commander in chief, the president. Then it goes down to the secretary of the Navy. Then it goes down to a rank called 4 stars, who are very senior Navy people that have jobs in Washington, and their mission is to support their seniors. Then there's another level of 3-star admirals that are usually out to a carrier battle group. Now this is where it gets sticky. Okay, we started with the president, then we started with the Secretary of the Navy, then the most senior Navy officer is the Secretary of the Navy, and now we get down to other admirals in the Navy who have very important positions in Washington and very important positions at sea aboard aircraft carriers. And they're in charge of an aircraft battle group. Okay?
Sure.
A carrier has usually an admiral aboard and a commanding officer who is just a Navy, I say just a Navy captain because of all the other seniors, but the captain of a Navy ship is the captain of the carrier. Okay. Under him, he has what was called the air wing commander. An air wing. An air wing is made up of 2 fighter squadrons, 3 attack squadrons, 1 anti-submarine squadron, a helo squadron, a ready alert squadron, and 2 more that just all add up to all the specialties that we do fall under the aircraft. How do I say it? The captain is the captain of the ship. And under him is the Air Wing commander. And that Air Wing commander, one guy who is his rank is a commander, is in charge of all those squadrons and all the people in the squadron. And that's 2,500 people in the Air Wing. And the ship's company is also 2,500. So you got one floating aircraft carrier on it with 5,000 people. The senior man on that carrier is the admiral. Under the admiral is the admiral's staff. And part of his staff when he's aboard the carrier is the ship's commanding officer and the Air Wing commander.
Okay. So now you're on an aircraft carrier. Who designates how long you're on it? Do you get, like, are you told from the beginning you're going to be on it for this amount of time, or does that change? Do you kind of know what your future holds, or is it just kind of uncertain?
That's a good question. It's determined by someone in Washington who knows what's going on in the world. And let's say that the Egyptians are, I've got nothing against Egyptians,
Sure.
but this will make the example
Right.
easier. Let's say they're starting making moves or doing things that are not really conducive to training missions. They're flying over in their own airspace, minding their own business, but it looks like they're preparing for a war. Okay, or anybody.
Mhm.
So Washington gets a sense of that. They'll send an aircraft carrier to the Mediterranean as a show of force that says, hey, we don't know what you're up to, but we're here to make sure that the United States' best interests are going to be served. So what's going on? And that's up to the politicians. The politicians determine where the aircraft carrier goes. And the admiral on board that aircraft carrier is responsible. And we haven't used that word yet, responsible. But he's responsible for following Washington's orders.
Okay. So he gets the orders down the pipeline. Does he pick and choose who he wants to be on that boat, or does the Navy delegate that?
The Navy delegates that.
Okay.
That's all depending on people who are being trained all over the world.
Sure.
I mean, the guy who is now the Air Wing commander, who's in charge of 2,500 people, 2 years ago could have had his own squadron like I did, and was in charge of 350 people. But he got this promotion from being a squadron commander to an Air Wing commander, where he's not just in charge of one squadron, he's in charge of all the squadrons on the ship.
Okay. Now, when you get promoted, who determines that? How do they?
Okay, there's a thing called the selection board. The selection board for all, and I think I know what you're getting at. How are people chosen for these? How are people chosen to be, for example,
Right.
There are, let's say there are, well, I'm just going to give you easy numbers. Let's say there are 20 fighter squadrons out somewhere training right now for war on a carrier. Okay, those fighter squadrons are being graded by whoever is the Air Wing commander. He writes fitness reports for the commanding officers. And that fitness report goes on your record. And when you come up, your seniority says, okay, you're senior enough to be an Air Wing commander, but you are competing with 50 or 60 other people. And the selection board has to select who gets promoted.
Okay. Now, do you ever go up to someone more superior than you and say, hey, down the road, I would love to do what you do? Or do you just kind of keep quiet and they pick you? Or do you ask about how do I become this position? Or I would one day like to do that.
A good question. We have a system that's called fitness reports. I'm going to give you an example. I had my own squadron. I had to write fitness reports on 4 or 5. At one time I had 6 very guys almost the senior to me, but I was the senior guy. They in turn had to write fitness reports on the officers that were under them doing these other collateral jobs in the squadron besides flying. And these reports are called fitness reports, annual reports that we had to write, and we had our choice. Basically, what we do to them. We had to send a copy to Washington, where these reports went into someone's official record, or we had a choice of sitting down with that person, going over the report with them, and telling them where he stood or she stood, and what was good, what was a little short of good, and so on with them. So they have a pretty good idea of where they ranked among their peers. And then the boards in Washington, and they consider, like for me, the most important fitness reports I wrote was for my executive officer. Okay. But there was only one of him. And then if I went down, I had 7 officers that were senior. Well, I had to rank those 7.
Okay.
And they had people working for them. They wrote fitness reports too on whoever were under them.
Okay.
So your immediate superior every year wrote your fitness report, and they all got compiled in Washington. And when the selection boards got together, when it came time to pick people for a promotive position or just a promotion in rank, like from in the Navy, it started ensign, lieutenant junior grade, lieutenant, lieutenant commander, commander, captain. That was a title, but it was also a rank, and then admiral.
Okay.
So boards met, and they had a number. It was a hell of a job for those guys. That's why I wanted to avoid Washington.
Sure.
I'd rather be out flying.
Right. Now, was there ever a time in your career where they offered you a better rank, but you said no because you didn't want to move outward to what you were doing?
Okay. That's a good one, and I'll give you my best answer and the truest answer. I pretty much knew, because I was lucky enough to have the officers that I wrote for always give me a copy of my report before they sent it to Washington. Some people didn't do that. They could get it, but they'd have to write Washington, and Washington would send them their thing. But I felt it was always best to sit down, get the news, good or bad, and call it constructive criticism if that's the way it went. Well, I was lucky. I was always told that all I had to do was to fly an airplane, get along with people like I did, and there shouldn't be both choices of a duty station or command or promotion would not be difficult.
Okay.
But I couldn't call my detailer and say, look, I don't want to make a cruise combat, or not, because I don't want to leave my family. I mean, that doesn't count when you're in the Navy. Mm-hmm. That would count against you.
Okay.
You don't call people and tell them. You could make a preference if you had a good reason, like if you had a sick parent who was dying. You could get emergency leave. You can maybe bend over backwards to take care of things like that. But as far as sitting down on a regular basis and talking to someone for promotion or duty stations, it should have been with your commanding officer. And when he went over that fitness report with you, tell you where you stood.
Okay.
It wasn't easy to do. I mean,
sure.
You had to sit down. I mean, how would you like to have 14 Mavericks in your squadron, all great, but having to rank them, mm-hmm. tell them to their face and where they were?
Right. Sure. Yeah,
but
no,
that's the way it was.
that makes complete sense. So now you've done all this stuff and you're say midway through your career. What determines like your exit strategy from the military now? You've accomplished everything you've wanted. You have some serious time within the military, and you know it's starting to come to an end, or that light is at the end of the tunnel. What
Mhm.
decisions do you make going to your exit strategy now?
Well, I was honest with myself. I didn't feel that my goal was to get my own squadron. That's what fighter pilots want to do. They want to have their own squadron. The arrowing thing, um, it was that was another thing. Um, if I wanted to go from my squadron and be competitive for an air wing, I would have to have gone and volunteered for a ship's position. In other words, go aboard ship and work for the captain of the ship, not the air wing,
Mm,
but work for be the navigator, be the supply officer, or things like that. Because
okay,
I mean, you've got to learn what the left hand is doing when you're out there. It's 50%
right.
ship and then 50% air wing. You
Mm,
can't go out there just knowing one aspect of it. And in that case, it may have called for right after you finish your squadron. They want to send you out to sea because you're a good guy and you're still competitive. But that's a little hard on the personal life because you've been going so much
right.
so often. That's how I felt. I mean, I had a great wife. I mean, she was behind me 100% all the time. But you've got to consider other things than
Sure.
what ifs, because I
Mm,
could do that. I could, yeah, okay, I'll go to sea and then not get selected, and then, well, uh,
right.
that happens. So that's the toughest question that you ask, because when I came to that fork, I said, look, you did what you wanted to.
Mm.
It's time to be home, and it was the right decision to make at the time.
Right. So you obviously came to that conclusion that the military was going to be over. You had done everything that you wanted to do. What was the first thing you did when you pretty much got out? You get your discharge papers. What happens next? What do you do?
Well, I got discharged to show you how good things were going. For my selections for grade, I made two early selections, meaning a year before the board met, it should not have had my name because I was too junior, but they included me in to see how good my report was. And if there was a slot, they actually pushed me into it. So I got pushed up 2 years, meaning that I don't want to get into this term year group
Hmm.
because that'll really muddy the water. But let me put it this way: I made rank twice, 1 year earlier than the rest of
Okay.
my year group did.
Okay.
But by doing that, in the end, it really hurt me because I got real senior real fast. And that put me into a position that in the year 1991, the Navy went through a rift. They were ordered by Congress to cut uh, the military back by so many people, and they wanted to start with the senior ranks. And if I didn't make that rank that I was in, I could have stayed for 2 more years and had 30. As it was, I got what they call a rift, which is not fired or anything. I mean,
Hmm.
but I had to retire with 28 years in the Navy instead of 30. And what that really hurt was I was making pretty good money. And it's like, getting your laid off two
Hmm.
years early and not keeping a position that would have paid you real good for 2 more years.
Right.
But you know what? I mean, I I nothing. I mean, uh, I was just just so happy just to
Mhm.
do what I did, work for the kind of
Sure.
people I did. And I'll tell you right now, the thing I miss most about the Navy is the people.
Sure.
The flying, I cut the umbilical on that. I mean, that's over. I
Mhm.
flew a little bit. I had my own license and all that kind of stuff, but that was nothing like the flying in the Navy.
Sure.
So that was it. Sorry if I
Awesome.
got off on a
No, no, no. That's
because
good.
you're hitting the
And
hardest
I want to.
questions to explain. I
Sure.
thought you were going to ask me how old I was and how
No, no.
many, you know.
So here's the fun stuff now, right? We've all seen the
Okay,
movies, right? The aerial maneuvers, those are all real. Is that stuff you did? Flying at the high speeds, the high altitudes, the drops, the tail spins. Is that all real stuff?
that's all. All those movies, those were actually the best out there out there doing that. Now, we have the Blue Angels, the exhibition team.
Hmm.
Okay, now they do that as that's a squadron.
Okay.
Okay, they're guys that have had two combat cruises usually, or two uh, cruises before they can audition, so to speak, for that. They do that, but all that film that you saw for Top Gun, those were real airplanes. Yes. Now the background and the things they were saying were not even close to being reality.
Okay.
But what you saw spinning was film of I think it was the F-18 that they did all of the spinning within Top Gun 2. And that was a piece of cake with the F-18, and it could fly out of a spin. The
Okay.
F-4, which you did not see in either Top Gun, because the first Top Gun had the F-14,
Hmm.
the Tomcat. If it got into a flat spin, you were in trouble. But all the filming that you saw really were real Navy pilots,
Okay.
and a lot of the guys that were flying with them at the time were movie people. They were actually the actors. That was the Navy's one of the Navy's rule. They said, okay, you can do this, you can do that, but everybody who's going to act the part is going to have to actually fly, and they had to fly the actors through the mission. They
Okay.
didn't fly the airplane; they just came along for the ride.
Sure.
But I don't know if you saw in the movies that looked like their faces were exploding
Yeah.
when they were pulling you. That was really the actor in the airplane at the time.
Okay.
So it wasn't that easy on the actors. I'm not
Right.
trying to say that,
So
but
now,
I'm getting.
so
Go ahead.
all the so all the aerial maneuvers they did, that's something can be done in a plane. I'm gonna hit the brakes, he's gonna fly right by. That stuff a plane can handle. It could do that.
Oh yeah, you can slow it down. You can. Oh yeah, so the other guy can fly by you.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
in the movie, one of the things is he's like, I'm gonna bring
yeah,
him in closer, and they're like, you're gonna do what? He goes, yeah, I'm gonna hit the brakes, and he's gonna fly right by. And then in the
yeah.
scene, they show him, slamming on the brakes. The plane flies by. He jets straight up and chases him and shoots him down.
Well, it's possible for him to pull the throttle back. There's no
Okay.
brakes. You pull the throttle back and you reduce your airspeed. And if you pull the throttle or the stick up, you lose airspeed. You lose airspeed, but your
Okay.
but your climb rate just really jumps. So yes, that is a maneuver that can be
Okay.
done. That one there, yeah.
Okay. So and I know they talked about it too in the sequel, right? The Top Gun 2, where they basically fly in and they're inverted over the hill and they fly backwards. That's something that plane is capable of doing. That's a real
No,
thing.
no, their airplanes don't fly backwards.
Okay. I mean, it was upside down. It wasn't backwards, but it was like it was
Yeah,
flying. Could
yeah.
that? Could they do
There
that?
was a lot of splicing in with, but when you saw airplanes with the ground in the background, that probably was a little bit more realistic than the
Okay.
ones that are just all sky.
Okay. That's pretty good. Now, when you were in the military and you were doing all of this stuff, right, and your combat training and your stuff like that, what would a normal day be like? You wake up in the morning. Do you like get debriefed and then do you fly, or do you get like time off? Like walk us through like a typical military day from basically the time you wake up in the morning to the time you go to bed at night.
Okay, I go to bed at night. My body tells me when, and it was usually around 10 to 11 o'clock because I wanted to be up at 5 in case the guys in the early flights that were scheduled. Well, okay, so at 10 o'clock, you get a knock on your stateroom door from the squadron schedule officer. Squadron now. The air wing makes up and the ship make up what hours the aircraft is going to have flight operations. Let's say I'm going to pick an 8-hour day. Let's say today it's going to go from 8 o'clock in the morning to 4 in the afternoon. Okay, the carrier is going to operate. Okay, then that's called the airplane. The airplane goes down to the air wing commander, who says, "Okay, I'll see that we have airplanes ready to fly at those in those spots."
Mm-hmm.
Then each squadron is given a time and number of airplanes that they can expect to launch. So let's say you have space for 8 pilots to fly, and you take all 8 of them, and you fly. Again, I don't want to get into the numbers because it'll,
Sure.
It's going to muddy the water. This is not easy. I thought you said this was going to be an easy question. I mean, it's not hard, but they have computers that work these out.
Sure.
But anyway, the squadron schedule officer then knows how many planes he could schedule from his squadron to fly, and we call that the airplane. The airplane is shoved under your door in about 15 minutes. So prior to 10:30, when I read the thing, oh, good, I got the first launch. It's at 8 o'clock in the morning. And I look ahead, oh, good, I got a launch at noon also. So that's good. I got 2 hops today.
Okay.
That's great. So that's what I'm looking at, and that's what all the guys do. So you start, and what we do is we launch airplanes, and I'm going to make this easy for the math is easy. Let's say that every event was an hour and a half. So you start at 8 at an hour and a half. So your first event goes from 8 to 9:30. The second event goes from 9:30 to 11. Okay, so we just go in increments of an hour and a half.
Okay.
So that's how you know what time you're going to fly. All right, so I lucked out. I got that first mission at 8. I've got a brief because I have to be. I'm going to work backwards now. I have to be in my airplane, shut off the CAD at 8 o'clock. So that means I got to man up by 7:30. So my brief has to be over by 7:30. So we'll start the brief at 6:30, where we'll be told the weather, the mission, answer any questions, and then we go man our airplane, and which is about a half an hour before the launch time, about 7:30. So we go up to our airplanes, all ready to go. Hop in the airplane. You start. The maintenance crew goes over that thing with a fine tooth comb. You're given the direction where to taxi, how to taxi onto the catapult. They attach it to the catapult, and you're shot off the airplane, off the aircraft carrier.
Sure.
Okay, now you're airborne, and let's say this is just going to be a practice bombing mission. So you don't have real ordnance, you have practice ordnance, and you go out and you're just going to drop it in the ocean, and you're going to come back to the ship and land. Okay, so we go up, we go up, and we'll practice airborne refueling, because with a jet it takes an awful lot of fuel to climb to altitude than to fly straight and level, and that's where you're using a lot of fuel. So your first mission is to go to the tanker who got shot before you, even on the air from the aircraft carrier. The tanker got lost an hour and a half before you. All right. So you go to that tanker and you fill it up, whatever it costs you to climb let's just say 25,000 feet.
Okay.
And you wait for your wingman there. Your wingman gets shot up. He goes to the tanker. He joins up on you, and you go to an airspace, whichever you're assigned to. You drop your bombs. Uh, and now all you're waiting for is the time to come back to the ship. Okay. The ship will launch another launch before they recover you. They've launched the first launch. That's the airplane we're in. And now before we land, they're going to launch another launch. So the second launch gets launched. All, let's say, 15 of them. Now they've got us 15. They have the deck. They launched airplanes that were on the deck in the way, so we couldn't land anyway. So they launched. Now the deck is free, and they take us down one at a time.
Okay.
Okay. We each land. We get taxied off of the landing area into a space where we can get out of our airplane and go debrief. And they get everybody down. And it's my job then. I just landed. Let's say it's, what time did I launch? I left at 8. So let's say it's 9:15. I landed. Now I go down to the ready room, debrief my maintenance people about the airplane I just landed, so they know they could turn it around and get it back up, or take it down to the hangar bay to fix it. And then I go to what we call the intelligence center of the ship, and I debrief my mission to the intelligence people, how the mission went. Okay. Now, mine would just been a practice bombing. Nobody would have cared less about it. If it was a real mission, they didn't want how many bombs did we drop, what kind of enemy defenses did we see, how did the hop go, bang, bang, bang. In other words, it would be much more detailed.
Right.
But that would be it. Okay.
Okay.
We would be assigned. We know that night what time we were going to fly the next day. Get shot off the catapult. Wait for our turn to come back. Land, which would be about an hour and a half to 2 hours.
Sure.
And all of that is all variable too. It depends on the mission too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're just if I had a board that I could put numbers on, it would make it a lot easier. But just rest assured that and yeah, but it brings up an excellent point, Marco, is that there's nothing like the orchestration of an aircraft carrier. I told you there's 5,000 people aboard, and everybody from the cooks that cook you breakfast to the guys that are, maintenance, or the ordnance guys that are loading bombs on your airplane, to the people that watch you from the second that you leave the flight deck and you climb up to wherever you're supposed to be going, to the people who watch you when you come back and actually land. You're getting help all the time. Mm-hmm. The orchestration is, I think, second to none. I don't think there's an easier thing to do than to send an aircraft carrier out for 8 hours. And by the way, it's not 8 hours. It's usually a 12-hour span.
Okay.
Where there's an awful lot of flying, an awful lot of different missions that take a lot of people, a lot of flexibility, and it's hell if you're not flying. If you're one of the people working a job on the ship, but you're an important guy in the chain, we know that. That's why most of us want to stay in the squadron.
Sure, absolutely. So your last, I'll finish with two real quick questions. What was your last official rank in the Navy?
I was a captain. That's an 06 in the Navy, and it's 6 promotions, a level up. I'm equivalent to a full colonel in the Army and a full colonel in the Air Force.
Okay.
But those are the only ranks that I could tell you about. I mean, everybody start, like in the Navy, you start as an ensign. In the Air Force, you start as a second lieutenant. Mm-hmm. And that's an 01. And when you get to an 06 in the Air Force, you're a okay, the Navy is a captain and the Air Force is a colonel.
Okay. So, and then lastly, if you were to go back to San Diego now, and you told
Yeah.
them who you were and what you did, would they be receptive of you coming onto the base and like seeing what's new, or would they say, how does that work now, going back, if you wanted to go tomorrow to San Diego?
Well, if I wanted to go back tomorrow, I've been back tomorrows.
Okay.
I've been to Miramar. I've been aboard the Midway, where a lot of retired guys I've met are volunteer. Oh yeah, I mean it's.
Okay.
I can't get into anything classified anymore.
Sure.
I lost my secret classification.
Sure.
But oh yeah. I mean they like that. They
Okay.
really really like it. I can go up to the tower and I can watch the F-14s. Not the F-14s, the FA-18s fly all day.
Okay. That's awesome. And then the last question I had is, what was your call sign?
Coyote.
Coyote. Sounds
And I'll
good.
tell you how I got it. Because my last name is pronounced Malchiodi. Well, everybody in the squadron was screwing up my name, and you get assigned a call sign. You
Okay.
don't pick your own. Mel Coyote, or they thought my first name was Mel. For a while, they called me Mel, and I knew who they were talking about her to. But it was funny because they decided that to call me the Coyote. So I loved it. Lived it there for 28 years. I wouldn't change it for anything.
Fantastic.
We had some fun ones. Like Maverick was the Maverick.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Goose was the Goose, and it went on.
Sure. So that's awesome. But Mickey, thank you for taking the time to do this. I know you're getting your office set up, and congratulations on the move to your new house and your new setup. What I'd like to do is in a few months, when you get all situated, have you come back on and let's talk about what happened after the Navy then. And when we'll bring you all the way up to current. So from the time you left to where you're at now, there's plenty to cover. So.
Okay, two things I want to real quick for you.
Yeah, absolutely. You do.
Number one, I can't say enough about the enlisted people in all services. The guys in the foxhole deserve so much credit. But who gets all the publicity? The officers in Top Gun. And I just want to say that the orchestration of any military exercise is impossible, because it's as the saying goes, it's the weakest chain in the link determines how successful the whole mission is going to be. And we have kids up there that are 17 years old that work on the flight deck, and they call the flight deck the most dangerous 4.5 acres in the world, because that's what it is. I mean, it's very, very dangerous up there. But they have jobs to do to make sure that we get off safe and get back safe. That being said, what I said before about, believe me, anybody could fly an airplane. Don't do any mea culpas because you didn't make that choice. It's not for everybody. I told you why I joined. I had no idea what I was getting into.
Sure.
And if you know anybody who's serious about it, send them down to talk to a recruiter and find out what it takes nowadays. Because I'm a dinosaur. It's a whole new Navy, and the rules of engagement have changed a lot. So
sure,
that's about it. I enjoyed talking with you.
Thanks, Mickey. I appreciate it.
Yeah, when I get settled here, I'm almost there. I got about maybe 20% more boxes to open. And
awesome. Well, you take your time, enjoy it. It's a new environment, but when you get all set, we'll have you back on, and we'll do part 2.
Okay.
All right, Mickey. Well, thank you for doing this, taking the time. I appreciate it. Thank you for your service as always. It was a pleasure talking with you, and we'll catch up in a few months.
Okay, Marco. Give my best to your mother, will you?
Will do. Absolutely.
Okay.
All right, guys. Thank you for having me. Mickey was a great guest. This video will be live on YouTube in a few hours. I'm going to do some editing, and then we'll have Mickey back on as a guest, and we'll see you guys all on the next time. Take care, everybody.